Welcome back. You're watching The Daily Report with my guest still here in studio on the AUC vote aftermath. Bonamaina, having listened to Musalia Mudavadi, Kenya's top diplomat, and his reaction that Nairobi has not issued an official statement, we're looking at more African phone kind of situation and the subdivision of all these, the reaction we've seen on what Francophone has done and the Southern as well. What do you make of what he argued after the vote?
The chief cabinet minister, first he's trying to do damage control. If the outcome was good, he would never issue his statement. It's a Kenyan thing. After elections, he seems to be importing our culture there. After every election in Kenya, we protest. So that could also be a dose of how we behave after an election has gone the other way. However, it's a good thing to do and a diplomatic thing to do. To control damage is diplomacy, indeed. And again, what he seems to be speaking to is not the African forum. He seems to be speaking to Kenya, home. Because this thing is coming home. And it's not coming home in a good way. He says it should not divide us. It already did even before the votes were cast. The local politics, one side was already wishing, now playing it locally. I'm not now in Addis, Kenya. One side was already thinking BAMBA should not win. The other, you heard Kaluma, what he said. There is a presumption that the other side wanted him to win. We've not seen the last of it. And Mudavadi seems to know what's coming. We've not seen the last of it, and he's trying to play damage control. And I can predict, I can assure you, in the coming few weeks or months, it will keep playing up. Why we lost? Why did it lose? If Baba lost, it was already being interpreted a few minutes later when Baba said, I'm coming home, I have a lot to do. What about if he won? If he's in Addis, who would have done what he wants to come and do? What is this he wants to do? Who will he delegate it to? There is so much. Kenya, the political scene never fails to bubble. I think, watch the space.
Yeah. Gordon, speaking to that, there is even the post by Ambassador Musa Mohamed Omar that was even referenced by some outlets in Kenya, such as The Standard, where Djibouti criticized President William Ruto's comments following the loss of his preferred candidate for AUC. And the remarks came hours after Mohamed Ali Yusuf was announced the winner. And in the post, Ambassador Musa Mohamed Omar, a communication expert at Djibouti's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, said the vote showed that heads of state refused to let the African Union be influenced by Kenya's domestic politics. When you look at the allusion that even Mena talks about, what effect does this loss by Raila Odinga have locally?
On the matter of that tweet, if the account is not verified, I refrain from commenting about it.
It is verified.
It is. You're certain, because there is a likelihood these days of the deep fake. Deep fake is a reality. So I won't comment about it because I don't know if it's a deep fake or it's a reality. But I think, again, Kenyans, we want to read too much into this. Was not about Raila Odinga. This was a Kenyan affair. And it was only proper that we conduct ourselves in a manner that portrays the patriotism in us to the rest of the world. If we fail to do that, we need to learn to do it better. Raila Odinga back home, whatnot, I think in my own observation or opinion, Kenya must begin to leverage on Raila Odinga's wisdom, courage, experience into the global arena. The moment we begin to leverage on all that Raila portends and take it to the global arena, to the continental arena, it will be much of benefit to us than looking inward. So can we begin to look outward with individuals like Raila Odinga, among many other Kenyans who are outstanding, the likes of General Opande, for example. Those are Kenyans who have done great things, and the moment we begin to give them the image they deserve as Kenyan patriots, global citizens who can serve far and beyond our country, the better for us as a country.
Okay, Stephen, looking at the impact locally in the local politics, what do you read from that return of Raila back to Nairobi?
First of all, I think we need a paradigm shift in the politics of this country. And according to the post you have read, it doesn't matter whether it's verified or not, because that, for me, that's a vibe that I did not need someone to say. And I had foreseen it before. And actually, if you look at the social media, even before the elections, there was a lot of negative comments by Kenyans against this candidature. So even when you talk about, this don't work automatically, this don't work by magic. If you do not cultivate your own citizens to be your goodwill ambassadors out there, you cannot oppress people and then you expect them to go and sing praises out there, okay? Americans and other countries that are great are patriotic because their governments take care of them. That's why we are running with green cards in the US, because you know that you go there and stay for 2 years, you make money than what you can make here in 10 years, and you are highly educated and so forth, because the government has made sure that it has empowered its people. So patriotism does not appear in a vacuum. You don't whip someone and then you say thank you. That's ridiculous, you see. So the way you treat people is the way, because even now, the other countries, when they went and looked at those social media posts, and that is why we should not ignore the youth. We are trying to run away from this Gen Z issue, but it's the spirit. This is not even about the individuals themselves. The Gen Z is a spirit. And that spirit is what is going to eat this country a lot if we do not make sure that we treat the youth with some level of decency and decorum, because they are very influential. Don't forget that they are global, okay? The Gen Z is a global generation. And with social media now, things are flowing like this. So even people in other countries, the people, for example, who would have voted against us, they will look and say, this gets politics. Is this the kind of politics they are playing in Kenya? No. They are going to bring this thing to AU. So, no, you see? For me, that's what I see as a fact. So, Kaluma's statement is, of course, self-defeatist. It just shows that sense of entitlement, that instead of trying to say, okay, fine, in fact, we should be magnanimous in defeat, just like you should be magnanimous in victory. We should say, okay, fine, we realize that we tried our best in the campaign, but there were gaps that we need to learn, so that we have some sense of mea culpa, But now you lose and then you say, oh, we are still the best, Then you're going to be like Arsenal, those teams that are perpetual losers, and, you keep trying to hype up, but it's not working, because at the end of the day, it's the cup that matters. And if you're not getting that cup, then it means that your coaching is not up to scratch than the people who are picking the cup. So
Arsenal fans know where
no, let's not, at least I'm not talking about Gorma here. Those ones are the ones that I would fear in the AFC Leopards, but those ones you can go and get me in the UK. But basically what I'm saying is that we need to put our house in order. Let us not take these things, because that is what we do. We heap, we throw it under the carpet. So the kind of rot that we are going to unearth years from now, it's going to take a lot of time to mend, because we should now stop and say, okay, excuse guys, I think there's a problem here. What can we do to change the attitude of Kenyans so that next time we are seen as one, as one nation? Because as it is now, we all know that we are not one nation. Yes.
George, even before you, sorry for interjecting.
Yeah.
Are we offering a solution? Because we have no choice B for a country. We have choice A, Kenya, choice A, Kenya, choice A, Kenya. So it is A1, A2, A3, Kenya. So are we offering a solution? Even in our analysis, in our post-mortem relook into all this, our conversation should be geared towards getting a solution, because we are not government appointees to offer counsel to the government. But I think even where they are, if they're watching, they would pick some of the things that needs to be done in order to steady our country. Because all we need is to one day be victors in any competition we are in, be victors in our diplomatic engagements. So I think these are some of the areas that we must always focus on when we are even doing our analysis. And one area that we must, and tell the government on their face that you need to relook into, is our diplomatic engagement from the appointment, deployment, and engagement. Where we don't have footprints, can we find how we put our we have boots on the ground, so that our engagement must also be vibrant. We cannot continue maybe to have people who, some of these assignments become a tour opportunity for them, holiday opportunity for them. And sometimes people used to ask, why is the president all over the place? I normally ask, are those places having our ambassadors? Are they doing what they're supposed to do? So I think we need to, and even the policy framers, let us not have policies made at the top, then brought down. If there is anything that must come from real bottom up, must be the policy making process. The people are involved. If you look at the foreign policy document, even on the day of validation, it was clear that it had not come from the bottom, from the people. People were not engaged, because it's when it was the makers thought, let us take it to the machinani, let us explain to people what it is. It ought to have come from the people coming up, so that it is sieved to the top. And moving forward, we must begin not just to be patriots and patriotic citizens, but we must also begin to offer solution to some of the challenges that we have.
Gordon opened up a very, the last part of the conversation that I was going to bring us to, sort of remedy, and I want us, gentlemen, to think about the probable cures that, and the lessons we've picked from this whole AUC. This administration is sort of halfway in now, some more years, just a few more years to go, and what we've seen, and I'll begin with you, Maina, the whole Sahrawi situation that we saw, was it hours after the inauguration, and these all diplomatic mishaps that we've been seeing over time. What would be perhaps the wholesome reflection and recollection, or the point of koinonia, if we could call it, for this government, ground zero, to go back and say, okay, fine, we have been going this way, let's now come back here before you go back out again?
Kenya First has always held out a strong position in its foreign affairs, even when policies were said not to be there or were weak. It's been a country with a presence. And we maintain our presence in many ways. Even being economically the strongest in the region, despite Bila Pesa kwa mfuko, we are still the strongest in the region. That's a presence. And we don't seem to capitalize on our presence the way South Africa does. South Africa looks like the powerhouse it's supposed to be. Nigeria, if you've been to Lagos, I can tell you without fear of contradiction, they may have a big name, big population, huge economy, but we are far better than them. Kenyans don't migrate towards Lagos. Nigerians are here, so many. If you go to Lagos, you have to look for a Kenyan. There is not this migration to that side. Yet, their presence is very heavy, and they don't joke. To an extent of even claiming, we'll give you our visa on the same terms you give our people the visa. They've done that with South Africa.
Yes.
You give us 6 days, we'll also give you 6 days to apply for a visa. Here we never do that. Some visas now you can't even want to apply. People stopped applying because you are given 6 months and you are going for a graduation next week. We are timid. The timidity is sometimes what has put us down. We don't know what we have. We don't exercise. We punch below our weight. I don't know why. For long, we seem to punch below our weight. To please this way and to please this way. We want to please the East and to please the West. The closest Kenya seemed to come to a decisive engagement with our region was when Kibaki took over. And you can see the results. He just decided. And IMF, World Bank started respecting the guy, stopped giving the sanctions, coming to him and wanting to help without any strings attached. We need to pull strings with the strength we have. And I'm talking now especially on foreign policy.
Yes.
We need to assert ourselves seriously. Egypt, when America is dealing with the Maghreb, they deal with Egypt. The whole Gaza-Israeli question has been negotiated in Egypt and Qatar. But in Africa, in Egypt, when America needed something done, they deal with Egypt. Why? The country is strong diplomatically. It's not richer than Morocco or Algeria. It's not richer than them, but it has clout and it positions itself. The same way I'm saying Nigeria is, they forgive me, Lagos is like a place in the dust, some places. But they are strong and they don't joke and they stand their ground. South Africa, the same. East here, we are so timid. We need a strong foreign policy that when Kenya speaks, it's, if a solution is needed for DRC, you'll have to come through Kenya.
Okay.
And Kenya will sort that. We'll help you sort that. Because of the clout we have, we need a strong foreign policy clout, exercised, made to be felt diplomatically, not arrogantly. And the country is full of experts. Some of the best diplomats in this continent are from this country.
Yeah, Gordon.
I don't agree that Kenya is punching below its weight. In fact, Kenya, we are being accused of punching above our weight. We are not lightweights as far as diplomatic engagements in the region is concerned. We are almost the big boy in the region. And that is where our problem is, because then there is a fear of, if already they are now playing the prefect role, if they are given more powers and more privileges, what would they do? That is where the fear of Kenya is coming in. How we conduct our diplomacy, how we conduct ourselves politically. Remember that it is only in Kenya where you can have a vicious political engagement for 3 straight months, and then all of a sudden, it's like nothing ever happened. We are back to our lives and lives are normal. That is not in other countries. So we are actually punching above our weight diplomatically. Because since 1963, when Kenya got independent, name one single African who has single-handedly led a UN, AU missions across Africa to bring peace. You will only find them in Kenya. If it is in South Sudan, you will find Ambassador Daniel Rachonyomboya, who began the negotiations, all the way left it along the way for Ambassador Dr. Sumbeiwo, who carried it and delivered victory or independence to South Sudan. If you go to the western part of it, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Namibia, Angola, we have a Lieutenant Retired General Ishmael Opande. Some of the icons in this continent are Kenyans. The Raila Odinga we are speaking about today, when Ivory Coast was in turmoil, he was the man who was picked by AU to go and bring. So Kenya is not punching below its weight. Kenya is punching rightfully, and at times, I suspect, above its weight. And that is where now we need to review. Where we are punching above our weight that brings us a problem is where we need to review and find a better way to punch.
What do you think, Bwana Stephen?
I think we always go back to Kibaki's tenure as a lighthouse of where we should have now taken over from the 24 years of challenge that we had. We will go back to that history because basically then we will, we can keep singing about it, but we need to move on. Now, what Kibaki's tenure had was the respect for professionalism and the respect for, like the technocrats. It reminded me of post-independence cabinet ministers. You remember the Kenyatta cabinets, okay? People in foreign affairs like Munya Waiyaki, they were all inspiring. Tomboya, people, they were really heavy names. Jonjo. Those names still sound today because they were people of substance, okay? If you're given a docket, they really took it up. And I think that is the kind of leadership that Kibaki was trying to emulate, so that when he got people in positions, okay, if you're talking policy and planning, you put in someone like Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. I mean, even when you go to international, he's respected. So you don't just look at political considerations. Of course, those are there. But even if you're going to employ your own brother, let your own brother be. People just say, okay, fine, we accept that he's your brother, but we let it go because he's the best guy for the job, you see. But now you employ your brother, he's an underhead from some place, and then you simply, because of nepotism and favoritism, okay? So I think what we need to do is to get our act together and have governance that is, substantive. And diplomacy will not happen in a vacuum. The vibe that we have here is what is going to exude outside there. So if we don't fight corruption, for example, and then people, you see like now Nigerians, even as they try to punch whatever, they are people who are marked, they cannot go to some countries. A Nigerian going to China, even if he's innocent, is already a red flag. They are going to scrutinize him a lot. And Kenya, we are getting to that point. Because of the culture we have here, we cannot be trusted, see? So your documents are double-checked and all that. But if then people like Egypt, they're respected because they're known they're not corrupt. They are people who have certain virtues, okay? And so and you can see even in Europe, you can see the kind of citizens that they want in their countries. People like Germany, they don't talk a lot, but they let a lot of Syrians come in because they knew that Syrians will not bring a lot of, I don't know what can I call it, I don't say shenanigans, yeah? But there are people who are going to come and integrate quietly into their society. So the vibe that you have in this country is what will make or break your reputation out there, okay? And so, again, beggars cannot be choosers. We have to have something that gives us clout. If you look at South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, they are rich countries, okay? Forget that maybe there's a lot of discrepancy between the rich and the poor in those countries, but as a country, their GDP is quite high, and they have resources that they can, and Nigeria, of course, is massive. It has a lot of oil and so forth. So people will just tolerate Nigeria because they are getting oil from it. But if they decided to pull the rug, if Nigeria didn't have anything, it would be a banana republic if we didn't have oil. But it is now, they have a lot of oil that is being stored and so forth. So diplomacy, at the end of the day, has to come out in a way that, like they say, charity begins at home. So don't go there in the international arena and, blow up your trumpet or try to thump your chest. And then people will say, okay, let's see where you come from. Then they say, oh, please, here you have you have no example to set for us. Yes. Absolutely. And what a way to close the conversation today. I've been speaking to Stephen Ndegwa, Executive Director, South Dialogues, and as well as IR expert. Thank you so much, Stephen, for joining us. There has been Gordon Opande Kachona, an IR diplomacy and IR expert as well. We started with Gordon Othiambo. Apologies for that. As well as finally Maina Mwiruri, a diplomacy and IR expert as well as former MCK chairman. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. My name is George Maringa. Thanking you for your time and for your feedback as well. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another. I'll see you next time.